Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm the Gray Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Wednesday, March 27th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today is, I'm not surprised to see this, my friends. If this card looks familiar, it's because we had it yesterday as well. We are starting our day off today with the Star, masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. This is a lot of that energetic shift that we've been seeing right now that is resulting in the energy of being in the frequency. One of the things that we are observing right now that is occurring is that point or power of observation. A lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now is taking a lot of time to regulate and to consider how much you have energetically changed from the time of finding yourself coming into that frequency. For feminine, this is about that internal journey of the self. This is the feminine energy coming into that space or place of trying to be their most vulnerable, authentic sense of self. That's a hard journey, right? That requires a level or degree of energetic safety, if you will. The feminine energy is not necessarily easily brought into that phase of being able to feel safe enough to be comfortable enough in their own skin. So one of the things that we see that for a lot of the feminine energy right now is being able to embrace that modality of vulnerability is helping with a lot of the energetic intensity of this, because that is the difference between, again, much like we discussed, the feeling of, again, I articulated in whether you feel anxious or excited, whether you move through that modality of feeling vulnerable, or whether you allow that to be that moment of saying, I am feeling authentic. I am getting down to the heart of myself. I am finding that part of myself that is my energetic core, if you will. So being able to even now energetically shift some of that feeling, moving it out of the space of vulnerability is, again, that pathwork of resilience, of embracing that vulnerability as a gift. And we see that even now for a lot of the feminine energy in that modality, that is most expressed by the ability to embrace the strength that it takes to be energetically vulnerable. Masculine energy in the divine union frequency, you may be seeing and experiencing the feminine in this modality. Now, why is this significant and important for a masculine energy? Well, we see here that for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency, masculine is learning a lot about their own emotional intelligence at this time, building that ability to feel one's own emotions, but not coming into a reactive space on them, being able to almost put that energetic pause point into practice, if you will, between the moment that you energetically feel something versus when you energetically act upon something. Masculine energy doing that work, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Learning to energetically sit in the feeling, but not let that feeling guide your own actions. That in itself is a pathwork for masculine that feels extremely energetically vulnerable. So what is the masculine potentially doing right now? In the moment that we see that the feminine is feeling that vulnerability, masculine is giving back that lesson and gift back towards the feminine, right? This is that moment that we recognize that the teacher becomes the student, right? When we're giving each other positive lessons, those are those moments that, like, sometimes we are actually just giving someone back what they've given us, right? That's like a good educational system, because that's that moment of saying, you gave me this, I'm going to give you the same thing that you gave me. I'm going to bring that forth in you. I'm going to give you that positive affirmation. I'm going to give you that reminder that be vulnerable is not a weakness, it's a strength. Having that modality right now is a lot of that energy that we see that is occurring right now between the masculine and feminine energy. And this is very important right now during this eclipse cycle, because we see here that there's a lot of energetic intensity that is building. So if you are feeling vulnerable, you're going to feel really vulnerable. If you are feeling confident, you might feel overly confident. Being able to find a way to moderate that is almost finding that pathwork of integrating it. And that's what we see that a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency is working on right now. Just allowing themselves to experience and feel it, but not necessarily, and just allow it to integrate. without letting that be a moment of effectively energetically acting upon it, without that point of energetic thought and consideration. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now. This is why I am also saying right now that path of easement is really important right now, because what is energetically happening for a lot of the energy coming into the divine union frequency right now? It's really easy to potentially become suddenly overly righteous about anything that is outside of that frequency zone, because that's that moment we even saw that reminder point that anything that you needed to learn prior to coming into that path work, anyone you had to meet, they were all a part of that energetic lesson that's brought you forth into this space and place. Being able to hold that modality of perception, of understanding, but also being able to bring that value point of compassion into play at the same time. It feels very energetically difficult for both masculine and feminine energy, but at the same time, it is energetically liberating, because that's that moment that you don't concentrate on the negative, you concentrate on the positive, you concentrate on what you're energetically building with another. For the feminine energy to see a masculine that's been going through that process of even now having a lot of that like emotional overwhelm. But is this the masculine energy coming into divine union that's self-sabotaging at a point of feeling that intensity, potentially moving away from what they aspire and desire because too many of the feelings are there, or feeling that sense of seeing energy moving away from them, or adjusting, seeing them coming into divine union and chasing after it? No, this is a feminine energy that sees a masculine that not only has that intentionality of purpose, but is holding forth and being able to ground themselves, being able to navigate the emotional overwhelm, that sense of like expansion that occurs when we build into the divine union frequency. So for a feminine energy to see a masculine that has grasped that power, that almost makes it feel easy, that's that feminine energy starting to feel that sense of really that energetic sense of being able to finally put their energetic guard down. This is the feminine energy finally coming into their sense of vulnerability, because this is, again, the feminine energy seeing that expression of commitment, not just from a masculine that affirms that they're together, but from masculine energy that is showing in every way, shape, and form that they are building a life with the feminine as opposed to a life around the feminine. Masculine moving into this modality right now with feminine, if you are also coming into divine union with the feminine right now, this is that amplification point that you're starting to realize or experience, where the more that you give the feminine in this way, the more that you energetically receive. Because what do we see is happening right now for the masculine energy that is giving that energy of vulnerability to the feminine, that's opening their life to the feminine, that's showing these things to the feminine, even if it's energetically difficult, even if it feels energetically vulnerable. Is feminine like, leaving the masculine hanging? No, feminine energy is also dropping their own armor. Feminine is also meeting the masculine energy where they are. They're both moving into that space or place of building that energetic connection, because that is the feminine energy that is feeling and experiencing the sense of energetic safety that comes not from someone telling you that they're yours, not from someone telling you that you're energetically safe, but from feeling and seeing the energetic expression of it in what you are creating with another. Masculine and feminine energy. This is why the energy right now in separation is navigating with such a sense of energetic discernment. And it is a little bit more difficult right now for the energy in separation, specifically because the valuable lesson that we see that a lot of the feminine energy is taking forth from this point is that power or pathwork of observation. Feminine wants to be able to feel energetically safe in their connections. Feminine may even now finally feeling that sense of security and safety at a time that you are in solitude, in a time that you are in separation. There may be a lot of contemplative work that feminine is doing right now during this eclipse cycle to really ask themselves, what is it that makes the feminine feel energetically safe? What are they looking to manifest? So we see even now there could even be a lot of the feminine energy of building new experiences with masculine and seeing the masculine coming towards you with some sense of confusion or uncertainty. This could be a feminine energy that's just being their honest, authentic self to be able to explain and express to masculine and say, listen, nothing against where you are on your journey, but I need to tell you how where you are on your journey is making me feel. And that is very important, the way that I articulated that, because that is the difference between coming into an accusatory space, blaming someone else for the way you feel, versus giving someone the validation to be able to be in their authenticity. while also saying, I need to be authentically honest about where your authenticity brings me. That is how we build that positive communication stream in terms of recognizing what we energetically need and being very energetically honest about it, and not allowing that to be an accusatory space saying, hey, you got to give this to me. Instead saying, hey, this is how your honesty or authenticity is making me energetically feel. Masculine, having that ability right now, we're even seeing right now, masculine energy, you may be having a lot of open, intense, intimate conversations with feminine energy. But what's beautiful about this is, again, masculine, you're recognizing and understanding that if you're receiving that level or degree of honesty from a feminine, it's potentially because you're leading forth with it. You're getting back what you're receiving. And even as we see that, may feel like that is that intimacy moment that can sometimes feel energetically difficult, because again, you're navigating topics that are very vulnerable. We see that even now there's that energetic amplitude of care that is occurring in those circumstances and situations that make those situations far more navigable. So we see even now that even for a lot of the masculine energy going through this process, even now it feels like you're having some kind of energetic breakthrough, even in the sense of a feminine that may be trying to say to you why they may be putting a little bit of energetic distance between you and them. Second card for our spread for today is, we have here Queen of Pentacles, because again, masculine energy, what you may be feeling even in separation right now, is all the difference of what happens when a feminine energy feels the stability and security to be energetically open, to be energetically safe. So even now we see that this is a lot of the feminine energy in separation around masculine. This feels like a lot of this energy of like compassion that's coming towards the masculine right now, even in a moment of separation. It almost feels like the feminine energy is navigating or acting as some type of guidance system for a lot of the masculine energy at this time, because even now this could be, like I said, we saw this over yesterday, a masculine energy not sure what direction that they want to move into right now. This is potentially receiving that information from a feminine saying, listen, I can observe this in you. It seems like you may be confused as to what direction that you want to go into. And that's why the feminine energy is almost saying to a lot of the masculine energy in separation right now, when you know what you want, you can approach, you can come towards, but not until that point. This is an amplification of the same message that we were receiving yesterday, which is almost, again, what is the feminine saying to the masculine right now, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Honesty is only one half of the puzzle. You can't just bring forth honesty with the feminine and suddenly feel like everything that you create with the feminine is going to be perfect. Because if you don't have that intentionality of purpose, the honesty can be just as confusing as the lack of honesty. Because the honesty must be built upon that sense of recognizing that you have that internal GPS system, that you know that you're aspiring and desiring to do something. And this is the feminine energy almost saying to the masculine, this is what my aspirations are. These are what my goals are. What are yours? And you can't just say me too, because this is almost a feminine energy saying, I need to recognize and understand and identify the fact that it seems like that moment or modality of recognizing and seeing someone that says, yeah, I want those things too, is being like, no, like that's not how this works. It's not typically one where someone just says like, because that's again, the feminine energy feeling like the masculine's just like copying the feminine's homework. You know what I mean? To a certain extent, right? Like, what did you get? What was the answer on yours? I got the same answer. What were the odds? You know, it's almost like that type of energy. So this is the feminine energy saying, you know, I will tell you more about what I aspire and desire, but you need to lead that conversation. Right? Because that is the feminine energy almost saying to the masculine, I want to see that you have that point. I want to be able to balance that. And so we see even now, this is the feminine energy that's almost saying to the masculine, like, I will show, this is the feminine energy, literally almost saying to masculine in separation, I will show you my manifestation goals, but you need to show me yours first. This is really like what we're almost seeing to a certain extent. Okay? It's literally the feminine energy saying, I will show you my manifestation goals, but you have to show me yours first. So masculine, you may be seeing and receiving this right now. The problem even now is, again, and this is what's so valuable and important right now for a lot of the masculine energy and separation. This is not about passing or failing. Moving with feminine energy is not a pass-fail. It is about whether you are in alignment with that feminine energy. Coming through from a state of authenticity means that nothing that you say to the feminine in that way will be the wrong thing if you find the right feminine counterpart. Recognizing and identifying that. understanding that. This is why even now I want you to recognize that if this is a feminine energy moving in this way, it's not because the feminine energy is judging you in some capacity. This is about energetic alignment. This is about trying to see someone and understand and say, do we energetically want the same things? So even now we see that this is the difference between a masculine looking at feminine and being like, my manifestation goal is just to be with you. Because that's a feminine that's almost moving right now at a sense of discernment, being like, well, what were you doing 2 days ago before you met me? Were you just like wandering around like what? Like that doesn't make any sense. This is almost the feminine energy saying you must have that intentionality point. You must have that internal aspiration point on what it is that you truly desire and aspire right now. Because that's the moment of feminine energy saying you can come along if we're going in the same direction, but I don't want you just tagging along because that's a different thing. So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy, this ability of building that sense, building that internal center, it almost feels like there may be a lot of new energetic connections that are happening right now around a lot of the masculine and separation. But what's really lovely about this is almost that energy that's like keeping a little bit of energetic distance to help someone get on their energetic feet and saying like, look, you can come along, but we can't take you with me unless you understand what it is that you aspire and desire. What does that direction look like? Masculine and feminine energy coming into the divine union right now. This is that modality of masculine feeling now this is the energy coming into reverse. This is the energy coming into reverse, if you will, because as we said, these energies that are moving forward right now into the divine union frequency, this was the energy of two individuals that were already moving on the same path. Right? They're already moving on the same path. That was that moment of the manifestation goals matching and feeling that alignment, that sense or that space of saying you make it easy. And it's like, well, you make it easy because we're on the same path, right? That's why that easement point comes. So what's happening now though, and this is why I was warning you guys, if you're coming into divine union, don't get all tunnel vision about this. Because this is the energy of the masculine in the divine union frequency, feeling like that energetic propulsion about focusing so much towards building that sense of energetic safety around the feminine. Why? Because for a lot of the masculine energy, experiencing and having these breakthroughs with the feminine, there's been a lot of energetic breakthroughs that are happening right now around masculine building with feminine energy. This is almost, again, that masculine energy that even if there is that path work, there's almost that like focusing right now in terms of integrating and bringing a feminine in. Why? Because this isn't a masculine that feels like they're effectively or energetically having to change something in their life that they don't want to change. This is that energy of the masculine feeling like bringing the feminine in that way feels like it is adding like that sense of tangibility towards the manifestation goal. So this is that moment that's just almost a masculine coming into that space or place, coming into divine union, that's almost like now feeling the feminine, seeing this in that tangibility point of a masculine that's almost looking at the feminine and being like, I am creating something with you and you are my cornerstone. Like you are that energetic center. And that is that beauty of, again, the feminine energy, feeling the difference between having someone build around you versus someone who builds with you. Because this is that moment that we see that this is the combination energy of a masculine saying, not only do I want to keep you protected and safe and keep a space where you can feel vulnerable, but I also want you to be a tangible aspect in that. I also want you to manifest with me. That is masculine, almost again, trying to amplify that feeling towards the feminine that they're moving towards in this way, because this is the masculine energy that, again, energetically feels like what happens when we find someone that's on our path work. We get the best of both worlds energetically. Right? We get the masculine energy feeling like there's someone that's building towards in the same way that you build, and at the same time being able to experience all the vulnerability points of a feminine that reveals that softer side even as you're getting the hard. I told you, this is that silk to steel approach, right? Get you the feminine energy that can do both, right? It's giving you that type of energy. Someone who's built their own sense of internal stability. This is the feminine energy doing that pathwork of the self. While also that sense of stability is why the feminine gives the gift of vulnerability to the masculine, because that is the intentional choice of the feminine. It's not just something that they find themselves powerless in. That's the feminine energy giving their vulnerability as a gift to the masculine. Feminine, feeling that, seeing that experience, building with a masculine in that way is, again, a masculine energy that is building with that sense or space of personal empowerment that comes through in that modality of saying, I love you for your vulnerable part, but I also love the part of you that can create. I love the strength that you've worked through on yourself. I love your own resilience. I love your own stability. And I love the fact that you're in that space or place that I know because you are so strong, your vulnerability is a gift that you give towards me. So we see even now that a lot of the feminine energy receiving that is almost a feminine feeling like that's a masculine that doesn't just see them from the optics of like their singular aspiration or perspective. That's a feminine feeling the full value of a masculine that feels like they see all sides, all facets of the feminine energy. And that's why we see that even now that modality is one that deepens the connection between masculine and feminine coming into divine union. The energy in the heart of the divine union right now, this is that expansion point that we are energetically seeing right now for a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency. For the feminine energy specifically, one of the things that we've been recognizing and identifying is we've been seeing that this modality, this moment, particularly in the heart of the divine union frequency, this is one that the feminine energy in the divine union frequency is doing a lot of energetic unpacking, if you will. Why has the feminine energy been doing a lot of energetic unpacking? Because this is feminine energy that's continuing to do that process that I mentioned about looking back to where you may have felt you were when you began in the heart of the beginning of the divine union frequency to where you may energetically find yourself now. This is a lot of the feminine energy doing that same self-review that we saw that a lot of the masculine was doing over the last few days. And for the feminine energy right now, this is the feminine energy that is putting a lot of that care and concentration in finding that energetic balance point within the self, right? This is that, I told you, one of the things that has been a bit of a challenging zone right now for a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency is finding that sweet spot, wanting to push oneself forward to such an extent wherein you feel like you're coming into that challenging space without feeling energetically overwhelmed. Again, the difference between excitement versus anxiety. For feminine energy, this is a lot of that fine tuning right now in terms of trying to find your own energetic comfort level. We see a lot of the feminine energy doing a lot of internal journeying right now, even in the heart of the divine union frequency, to understand and identify what that comfort level is. Masculine, you may be seeing this on the part of a feminine energy right now as well, because specifically for a lot of the masculine energy that's going through this right now, you have also been doing this work, but it has been more about that energetic softening point. Seeing this masculine is, again, almost helping the feminine energy try to find that balance point. But at the same time, what is the masculine energy doing at this time if they're seeing the feminine do this? Is this a masculine saying, I think you should do this, I think you should do that? No. This is a masculine almost taking a little bit of a hands-off approach, offering the energetic assistance, but not wanting to step in, because that is that moment or the difference between someone being able to do something for themselves versus someone who needs someone to do it for them. So we see even now that a lot of the masculine energy, what's happening with the masculine energy in the divine union frequency, taking a lot of chapters from the feminine book in terms of what it feels like when we're guiding someone forward in a way that feels difficult, but we know is compassionate, right? That sense of wanting to step in and do something, but instead holding back to see if someone can figure out what that is for themselves. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is our Hanged Man energy in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy. What's really interesting about this right now, for a lot of the masculine energy, this is almost why we see a lot of the masculine energy in this modality right now. Why is the masculine energy in this modality in the heart of the divine union been working so hard about feeling a lot of emotional energy, but then trying to ground through it? Because this is, again, the masculine energy trying to avoid their own ability of stepping in energetically when they know that there's something about that difference between what they feel that they should do versus what they know is energetically best. So we see even now that the gift that the masculine is almost receiving in watching the feminine do something, it's literally coming through and watching the feminine do something and wanting, like feeling that sense of wanting to step in and do it the way that you energetically would, but then going, no, No, like I gotta pull back, like almost like I'm not gonna touch the pot kind of thing. It's one of those moments for a lot of the energy that's in the divine union frequency, because it's almost that moment that in itself, the ability of the masculine to feel the energetic overwhelm of wanting to guide someone through that, but then almost again being able to energetically trust that someone can energetically do that on their own, is that moment that we see that is coming through right now, almost in that space or state of energetic compassion. Because even now, for the energy in the divine union frequency, this is that moment of feminine being like, I've got this, I can do it myself, and masculine being like, I'm going to work through the process of trusting that that is the case. Masculine and feminine energy, but at the same time, like almost like I want to get like that, like that hand biting moment, like where you're like, okay, it's fine, yes, do it that way, because that is that moment where again we recognize the power and understanding and saying, maybe if we allow someone to come into their own self, you're about to learn something. You're about to see something that you haven't seen, right? It takes a little bit of that like energetic modification, right? That energy of like, yes, I want to trust that the way that you find a way of doing something is going to be very unique and interesting. That sense of curiosity instead of that point of anxiety. Masculine and feminine energy coming into the divine union right now. This is that moment. It feels like a lot of this energy is just like, I have to say, it feels like a lot of energetic weight that's being lifted right now for the energy coming into the divine union frequency. Because what we're energetically seeing right now for a lot of this energy coming into the divine union frequency is we saw that this energy was on this path work leading into the divine union frequency, started to feel some of that energetic turbulence, either those spaces or places where someone has a tendency of self-sabotaging or seeing the other energy like affected by the formation of the divine union that would have typically like sent everything like falling apart, if you will. This is energy that stays and maintains that point or power of conviction. And what's happening now is, again, it feels like that strengthening. It feels like that moment of something getting energetically easier, because that's that moment of, like I said, what happens when you drop like a pebble in the water, you get all those ripples, and then everything kind of everything settles down, right? So we see to a certain extent that feeling of easement is energetically arriving right now for a lot of the energy coming into the divine union frequency right now. And that's that moment that almost feels like that wave of energetic catharsis. That's that energetic wave, if you feel, in something getting easier, because that's that moment of, again, starting to like create that groove, starting to like put those things into play. When we do that, everything can feel like a little bit of that shift moment, but then things like energetically feel like they're getting easier. This was a little bit of a Band-Aid ripping moment that we saw for a lot of the energy coming into the divine union frequency. And as a result of that, now we see that if that was a moment that at that time that tightened the intensity, that fortified the partnership, that led to a moment of feeling the intensity and not running from it, but becoming more vulnerable, we see now that that's that moment of energetic security that arrives to circumstances and situations. For feminine to see a masculine that is able to push through that intensity point and build forward with the feminine, even again, becoming more vulnerable, integrating the feminine even more into their own life. This is the feminine feeling that sense of having like energetically arrived into some point of energetic sustainability with a masculine, because this is a feminine energy that says they make it so easy. They're giving me these things easily. It's not something that I feel like I need to like pull out of them, because we're in energetic alignment. Even now for feminine, that could be a little bit of an overwhelming situation, because sometimes when we have that moment of receiving something easily that was so hard to receive in the past, that in itself can be a little bit energetically overwhelming. For masculine, that modality, again, moving through something with a feminine energy that you feel is, again, maintains or has that sense of resilience, but also is extremely energetically vulnerable to you. That's a masculine, again, almost feeling the expansive point of seeing a feminine then in their honesty, in their authenticity, and feeling like you've energetically found the best of both worlds. Because that is that moment with masculine. But why is the feminine offering that to the masculine? Because the masculine energy has created a safe enough space for the feminine to show both of those sides, right? That's the masculine also recognizing that one doesn't stumble upon that, if you will. one creates that. One creates a safe energetic space through which a feminine can feel free to show masculine all of those sides of themselves. So even now we see that that's that moment of masculine feeling the reassurance and the confidence in their energetic choice to move forward with the feminine in this capacity. Masculine and feminine energy in separation. This is the energetic equivalent that we are seeing to a certain extent that feels like that moment. And we can see even now that this is a little bit more difficult right now for a lot of the energy in separation. Because for the energy in separation, this is the feminine energy just navigating with this like sense of stability and discernment. This is feminine energy. And I told you, it's a little bit of a princess in a pea effect that is happening here for a lot of the feminine energy. This is feminine energy that is very, very high tuned right now and very, very hypersensitive to anything that they feel may give indications that something that they're asking for is going to be too energetically difficult. That's kind of the best way I can articulate that. This is almost the feminine energy moving with such a discernment point that if something that feminine has identified that they energetically require right now in partnership, if they're not seeing that on the side of the masculine that's approaching them, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This is effectively energetically the feminine basically saying to a certain extent, I can't. Because this is the feminine energy that's looking right now. They're feeling that sense of coming back into themselves. And this is that moment of the feminine being hypersensitive because they don't want to lose that sense of easement that they're just starting to regain. So this is almost the feminine energy trying, and even potentially articulating this to the masculine, saying, I don't have the energetic bandwidth to take some kind of energetic or emotional risk at this time, simply because the prioritization point needs to be in finding my energetic footing. So this could almost be a lot of the feminine energy saying, if there's masculine that's approaching the feminine right now from that point of uncertainty, from that point where the feminine can almost sense some kind of energetic confusion in relationality to what the masculine is ultimately seeking in their manifestation goal, the feminine energy is almost saying, like, if that's the case, like, I wish you well, but like, we need to like almost stop this before it starts, because this is the feminine energy almost saying, like, I can't get invested in something like that because the feminine energy is just healing from something like that. Masculine, you may be sensing this or receiving this right now for a lot of the new energetic connections that you may be finding right now if you're in separation, because that's that moment that if you're leading forth with feminine from a place of honesty and authenticity, and you're suddenly realizing you're experiencing a whole different side of feminine, you're also experiencing potentially that that's only one half of the coin, that you can't just lead forward to feminine with that sense of authenticity. There also needs to be an intentionality there. There needs to be in a moment where you're able to truly clarify and articulate what it is that you aspire and desire in order to see if the feminine energy is in energetic alignment with it. And we see even now that is something that feels like a little bit energetically hard for the masculine because it amplifies the need to make that point of internal choice. So for a lot of the masculine energy in this modality right now, I told you, this is almost like a lot of self-discovery, if you will, in understanding and recognizing what it is that you truly aspire and desire, because this is almost a lot of feminine energy coming towards you sooner and saying, what is it that you want? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between fourth card in our 5-card spread. That's the energy of transformation, right? That's a lot of the energy that's effectively happening right now that is allowing some kind of energetic transformation, because that is that moment of the feminine energy that's saying, being able to articulate on what you feel, being able to express what is difficult, being able to talk about your own accountability in terms of what has occurred in the past. That's half the work. The other half needs to be centered on what you want to effectively change. Like, it needs to be able to identify what you're doing to change that, right? So even now we see that there's a lot of that energy of feminine. If this is a masculine that's coming towards the feminine and is being open and honest in this way, this may be a lot of the energy, even the new feminine connections meeting masculine, giving a little bit of that like compassionate, like energetic, tough love, if you will, saying, well, it's good that you identify that these are things that you've recognized. It's good that you've seen that you need to operate in that state or space of like knocking down the world of illusion that you were trying to build with feminine. It's good that you're coming into that pathwork of authenticity, which is authenticity of the self. But what is it that you want? It's literally the feminine going, but what is it that you want? And why is the masculine here still having that moment of energetic trepidation? Because that's a masculine energy, still feeling the anxiety of, again, recognizing that when we tell someone what we want, we give them the opportunity to accept or reject that. And that's that reminder that a lot of the masculine needs to receive right now in separation, that again, if you articulate to someone what you energetically want and they decline that, that is not an act of energetic rejection. That is an act of a gift that you are receiving that is showing you from a place of honesty that you are not in alignment. That doesn't mean that there isn't someone that is energetically aligned to you. It's just that moment that allows for that point of energetic transformation in recognizing that. But we see even now that some of the masculine energy in separation, one of the key aspects to this is that the masculine energy in separation right now is more energetically adaptable. More energetically adaptable to kind of embracing what life brings, as opposed to having that sense of what they desire. The problem that's occurring right now for a lot of the feminine energy is this is not feminine energy in separation that is seeking the masculine that is energetically adaptable. It's good to be adaptable, but even in our adaptability, we have to have some kind of directionality. There has to be some kind of pathwork there in terms of what we aspire and desire going forward. So we see for a lot of the energy, this is like a lot of like very invested conversations in relationality to like what someone wants and what they're working to change. Because like, again, this is like energy that's encountering themselves like as they're putting the wheels on something, and almost talking about how much they're energetically changing. And I have to say, a lot of these conversations could be amplified with someone basically saying to a certain extent, well, this is what I know I don't want. And even that, like that's half of it, like that's helpful, but it also needs to like, you can't just move into that space of negation. That negation also needs to be that moment of manifestation. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. This is that energy that's almost giving that like sense of being like finding divine union, like wanting to leave the world energetically behind, if you will, because this is that moment that feels like that point of feeling like that huge energetic easement or catharsis that comes when we energetically feel that moment of breakthrough, when we find someone and we feel like we found what we were looking for. For masculine and feminine, this is the feminine feeling that energy of seeing a masculine that's like, it's not that sense of feeling like you're building something with the masculine in the future. It's that feeling or sense that you already have it with them. Like what exists between you is not something that you can like, it's just something that exists. Like the masculine is moving in a way that the connection point, it's like, it doesn't even need, it doesn't need affirmation because it's just self-evident in the way that the energy of the masculine is moving towards you. So even that sense right now for feminine, that's the feminine energy, feeling that energetic stability or security point. Masculine, this is that energetic moment that, again, you're feeling that embracing of that deepening connection. What's happening for the masculine that's leading forth with the feminine and opening up their life in that way, and almost showing the feminine in that way that the desire is to build with them as opposed to building around them. This is the masculine that's almost seeing like the feminine like flourishing or opening up even more, because this is that feminine energy that is feeling that sense of affirmation in the relationality of experiencing that point that is the energetic choice. Like that is the energetic choice of saying like, I am willing to enter the divine union, and I recognize that that is requiring a sense or a space of energetic transformation. Masculine and feminine energy coming in, that's in the heart of the divine union right now. This is that modality that feels more about continuing to amplify how much one another is energetically progressing to a certain extent. For the feminine energy, this is about the feminine energy that is continuing to evolve and expand and effectively or energetically try to find that comfort zone for themselves. What is happening for a lot of the feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now? This is that modality that we see and understand. This is not feminine energy in the divine union frequency that like arrives in the divine union frequency and goes, all right, I'm done. I don't really feel like doing anything. This is the feminine energy that's flourishing in this modality. This is the feminine energy that's moving through that process of trying to find that space or place wherein they're finding their best, their most authentic version of self. They're experiencing that moment of trying to discover where they want to energetically go, and at the same time being able to find what makes them feel comfortable. So we see even now that energetic sense of curiosity, that energetic sense of excitement, navigating that difference between excitement and anxiety right now, that is that moment for the feminine that feels like that point of finding one's own energetic sweet spot. For masculine, this is that moment that again amplifies that sense of potentially seeing a feminine going through this process and not wanting to energetically step in and tell the feminine energy how to energetically move, but almost again, standing back and either doing that in a way that feels like it is excited, being like, wow, like look at them do that, or a little bit anxious, like I want to step in and I can't. It's literally either one or the other that I'm seeing to a certain extent, like someone being like, or it's either one of those, because it really depends on where you are astrologically in terms of how you bear that masculine. But we see that even now, that is that moment that you are also working through that process of the amplification of excitement, anxiety into excitement, if you will. Continuing to get clarification on these cards, fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is Temperance. Again, one of the things that's beautiful about this for the energy in the divine union has to do with that moment or modality of finding the energetic harmony in the present moment. As we recognize and identify, there's a lot of the energy right now in the divine union frequency that is working through that process of trying to bring the manifestation goals into the present sooner. That observation point in recognizing that the way we bring the manifestation goal into the present sooner is embodying the way we hope to feel in that way. When we're recognizing, when we're feeling the way that we hope to feel in whatever that manifestation is, then we've effectively already done half the work, because we're almost saying, I'm going to do that hard part first. I want to bring forward the feeling I would have if I had that thing. That's when it becomes less of that. That's that moment that we see that is occurring right now, which is why we see that additional aspect of trying to find that harmonic balance is effectively what so much of the energy in the divine union frequency is working towards, because that's not a place of stagnancy. You don't find that when you're energetically stagnant. You have to be able to build into that craft space of, again, what is the difference between art and craft? Craft is finding enjoyment in the process of creating. So building into that sense of being able to find that sense of abundance, to find that sense of joy, even as you're working towards that energetic goal. That is effectively almost like the energy that the energy in the divine union frequency is trying to cultivate. They're trying to cultivate that energy around them, even as they move forward in that way. Because what's the point of having a manifestation goal if you're going to feel like junk the whole time that you're trying to reach it? Finding that balance of feeling the joy as you move towards that point is the validation point for a lot of it. So we see even now that is a process, and that process takes time. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, this is the energy of arrival. This is the energy of someone feeling the energetic breakthrough and feeling like there's something here about some kind of milestone that's been accomplished. There's an energy here that there is some kind of energetic transformational process that has almost just reached that point of energetic completion. That articulation on the feeling of completion is going to be met with like almost that sense of energetic peace, if you will. I told you had like the ripples in the water and then the water gets still. Like that's almost that moment of feeling that calm that comes once that point of transformation has occurred. So for a lot of the energy right now coming into divine union, it's not that you're finished. It's not that you're finished, but I almost see that a lot of the energy coming into the divine union right now has like effectively hit some kind of energetic milestone over the last few days in terms of feeling like you did the hard part, like you did the hard thing, whether this was introducing, bringing the energy to a different level, articulating it, doing some kind of work right now in terms of feeling that milestone. But the interesting thing about this is like, the energetic equivalent of this, it's like, it's not like the doing of something creates the energy. It's feeling like the energy is there and then feeling the shock waves as you put it forward that almost needed to be energetically navigated. Masculine, and even now, this is that moment that almost feels like some of that energetic peace being restored in the process of that transformational cycle. Because again, what's happening right now? Feminine seeing a masculine that's like integrating or bringing the feminine into their own life. Again, not building around the feminine, but building with the feminine, is immediately that moment of feminine feeling energetic peace. Masculine having that moment of feeling vulnerable enough to take that step to energetically build towards with the feminine, recognizing the changes and the modifications in your own life, but embracing that. That's a masculine energy that's like not blinking twice in doing that, because this is a masculine energy that feels like doing so is a cause of energetic celebration. It's making something energetically easier instead of harder. It's almost a masculine saying like it's not anything. It's not creating, like feminine being like, I don't want to bother you. Masculine being like, are you kidding me? This is nothing. This is not a bother at all. I'm doing this because I want it. So like this is a masculine going, I'm doing it because I want it, because I get to have more of you, right? Like it's almost like that kind of energy. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is why a lot of the feminine energy may be having, this might be feminine energy meeting new masculines and already having a lot of like difficult, intense conversations very quickly. Because what we're effectively seeing right now for feminine is, again, if feminine's starting to build any feelings towards new masculine connections, this is feminine almost saying like, oh, like, whoa, do we want the same manifestation goal? No, I'm not going to tell you mine. You tell me yours first. No, and then why is the feminine, this is feminine not saying them being evasive. This is feminine energy saying, I want to make sure that you're not just copying my homework. I want to make sure that you're not just going to say yes, because this is almost feminine energy saying to a certain extent, I was just in a circumstance or situation where I felt like someone was going yes all the time, and then I realized that their actions were actually saying no the whole time, right? So this is the feminine energy saying, I want you to articulate what it is that you're seeking, and then I will affirm it to you. And that's the feminine almost trying to even say to the masculine, that's not the feminine being energetically evasive. That's the feminine energy having learned some kind of significant lesson in relationality to experiences in the past where they felt like they met masculine that did not have a manifestation goal and was just trying to move towards feminine to such an extent that they would affirm anything that the feminine said that they desired. Masculine, you may be having a lot of these conversations right now with new energy with feminine that is navigating this point, because this is the feminine energy that's almost saying like to a lot of the masculine energy, you seem delightful, you seem wonderful. Your authenticity is refreshing, but the authenticity is only half the battle. The authenticity needs to be matched with intentionality. Continuing to get clarification, and this is feminine energy that says it's a process. And this is almost feminine energy meeting that masculine energy and saying, I don't want you to feel like that's putting you under the gun. That's feminine almost saying, that's a moment that like, make sure that you know that, because when you do, we can proceed forward, right? That's almost the feminine energy saying, I'm not moving you into that space that you need to tell me if you don't have one. But I'm also saying this is the feminine energy saying, I can't continue forward until you know what that is. And that's almost the feminine energy saying that to the masculine by means of saying, I'm doing that because I know what's best, even if it's difficult. That's energy trying to stay on their own path. Masculine, you may be recognizing this right now, and this could be a lot of that internal journeying that you're experiencing right now, to be able to articulate what may feel like it's hard to put into words. A lot of the masculine energy right now may be really going through a transformational process, and it may be kind of hard, because I can see even now it's like shifting your own aspect in terms of what it is that you aspire and desire for. And I can even see now that a lot of the masculine energy is almost saying to a certain extent, I'm adaptable. But even in that adaptability, there has to be some kind of energetic purpose, right? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Queen of Pentacles and our Star energy. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. And this is why we see the feminine energy and separation being so cautious. This is almost the feminine energy right now, even now, potentially having to have hard conversations with new connections with masculine, being like, listen, I don't think you'd be like that. I don't think you would do these things, but they have energetically occurred. That's what's so difficult for a lot of the feminine energy in separation right now, potentially going through a lot of these processes. This is almost that feminine energy that's saying energetically, even to the energetic connections of masculine that are coming towards them from a state or space of wanting to heal, that almost says, again, I hope you can understand, I'm not moving forward in this way because I assume that you're unhealed, but I have to move in that way because my experience has led me to recognize that such a thing is possible. Such a thing can occur. And even now, what are we seeing? That a lot of the masculine energy encountering feminine in that way. That's that moment that feels like that point of personal understanding. And masculine saying, I understand completely. Like, because that's masculine energy that's not saying, this isn't masculine energy that's not denying the existence of that. That's almost the masculine energy that's like leaning in and listening to the feminine energy story and understanding exactly why the feminine needs to move forward in that way. And the masculine energy saying, I understand that. Because that, again, for a lot of the masculine energy, a lot of this masculine energy is either going to say, I've seen it around me, or that's been a part of my own journey. You know, like it's coming through at that moment. That is the ability to be adaptable, the ability to be accountable. So what is happening right now for a lot of the masculine energy that's going through this process? Is that a moment of resistance? If a feminine's bringing forth that to you? Is that a moment of saying like no? Or is that a moment of saying, of approaching something with a sense of understanding and curiosity, of saying, you know, explain to me why you feel that way. Tell me what this is, because that is that moment of personal understanding that comes through not only in the experience of the self by connecting with another to understand a perspective that you yourself might not inhabit. So we see right now that for a lot of the energy moving forward in this way, what happens when these energies start to talk authentically about what has occurred between them? We not only get a deeper understanding in another person, but we learn more about our own self by seeing perspectives that may feel, they're not like they're on our path, but they may feel akin to things that have occurred on our path that give us a different perspective on something that has occurred around us. So we see even now, this feels like an energetic process of continual healing right now that is occurring, specifically for both masculine and feminine in separation. Through feminine, articulating and amplifying and holding that point of almost energetic resilience to a certain extent, saying to the masculine, I don't assume this of you, but I need to be energetically careful. And masculine saying, I am also on a healing journey, and I don't want to do anything that is going to make you feel uncomfortable. So why don't we discuss and move through this? So that ability to articulate that, and even now that's a feminine energy that's almost saying to masculine to a certain extent, I need to know what it is that you want. Because when you are able to identify what it is that you want, then we can build together, as opposed to us feeling like we're coming out of alignment in either you moving towards a manifestation goal I set and then becoming resentful of the fact that it was never yours, or you are not being honest about what you want and just agreeing to what you feel I would desire to be able to build with me. So we see even now that that's creating a space of a lot of open, clear conversations that are happening, even if they're energetically difficult. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union. This ability of recognizing this is the masculine energy. Again, almost opening the doors of the garden to the feminine, their garden to the feminine, because this is the masculine energy that's almost saying, I found what I'm looking for. Right? That's the feminine feeling a full masculine that's saying, like, I'm trying to bring you into all aspects, because this isn't something that I'm trying to keep you like in a certain place in my life. I'm not trying to just keep you in this certain area. I'm trying to show you that I'm opening all the doors. All the doors. They don't want any doors. I don't want any doors between us. I just want everything. What's mine is yours kind of thing. Mi casa es su casa. It's like one of those kind of energies. It's like that energy of the feminine feeling a masculine that's just kind of like, you know, knocking everything off the table and being like, okay, here, this is all yours. What do you want? Right? That energy Feeling that type of energy from a masculine, that for feminine is that moment of the feminine feeling that energetic relief, because that's a feminine that feels like, again, a masculine that is building with the feminine and is also inclined. The feminine feels secure and safe because that's a masculine that's saying, I'm dropping all artifice. I want you here, and I'm also creating that space where you should also feel comfortable to do so as well. Masculine and feminine and divine union. Like, this is just the energy moving deeply into divine union very quickly. Masculine and feminine energy that is in the heart of the divine union. This is that energy that we see right now that is the amplification point of both of these energies, doing a lot of this work to find that energetic sweet spot, to try to build that sense of energetic comfort in that day to day. So that way it doesn't feel like you're working towards some kind of like untenable manifestation goal, but you're enjoying the moment. You're enjoying the experience of where you are in the present. And that takes a little bit of energetic fine tuning, specifically right now for feminine energy that is trying to find that balance point between energetically pushing themselves while also feeling vulnerable. That difference between, again, excitement versus anxiety. While a masculine is effectively, like, I want to say, like energetically waiting in the wings to a certain extent towards a feminine that's doing that, all in that same modality, because this is one of the masculine doing it from their own emotional space. So both of these energies are doing this, albeit in different ways. For the feminine, it's more of that internal journey of pushing themselves forward. For masculine, it's actually the journey of not doing anything, of having to stay in place, right? In the moment, like that is you see how these energies are both having to work through that discomfort level? Like that is the way. Continuing to get clarification on these cards between our star energy in combination with our hangman in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. This is really important right now. This is why. Because we recognized and identified what could be akin to a feeling of energetic exhaustion that was coming in over the last few weeks. What was happening? We saw that the masculine and feminine energy was racing so far to some kind of energetic finish line that they started to feel that emotional overwhelm or energetic overwhelm in the present moment. That's not sustainable, right? And we see even now that that ability to regulate that is a big conversation right now for the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency, because that is that moment of energetic compassion combined with encouragement, which is almost effectively saying to someone, I know that you want to move forward in that way for the sake of the energetic union, but also the first directive must be that you put the care and energy into your own person to be able to sustain that for as long as you energetically can. Again, it's remember how I said the energy right now in separation is saying that there's two parts? Like the energy that's also in the divine union is going through a moment of saying, again, it's two parts. They're just two different parts that are being assessed right now, because that's a moment of basically saying to someone, it's important to be able to feel that need of wanting to like be your best version of self, but you need to take care of the present self in the process of doing that. You need to find that balance point. You can't be so indulgent in the present self that you don't energetically move forward. You can't be so overwhelmed in terms of trying to get to that, that manifestation goal that you don't take care of the energetic self in the present. You need to find that energetic balance point between moving forward while also staying grounded and restored in the present. You have to do both. So we see even now that modification point is what is being kind of tackled, if you will, in the energy of the divine union, which is that moment of looking at someone being like, are you okay? And someone being like, I'm fine. And be like, no. Like, are you okay? Because that's that moment of you being like, I can't tell if you're okay because you may seem like you're okay. Is this like, are you navigating these circumstances with excitement or anxiety? Like that is that moment. That's what we mean when we say to someone, are you okay? Like, where does that lay on that line? Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union this is that moment that like, this is the shedding of anything that feels like it's not in the divine union. Because this is almost that energy that says like anything that's like, this is that moment of energetic relief right now. Because that's that moment that, again, for the feminine energy to almost see a masculine making these accommodations or opening the doors in this way to the masculine's existence, and the feminine being like, you don't have to go to the trouble. Masculine saying, are you kidding me? What are you talking about, trouble? Like, this is amazing. Like, this is the opposite of trouble. This is the masculine going, this is the opposite of trouble. This is something that I want to bring in gladly, because that's a masculine energy saying like, this is, and this is almost a masculine energy looking at the feminine if it's doing that and going, who told you this was a problem? Who told you that who told you? Who made you feel like this would be too much? Because that's the masculine being like, right? And for the feminine energy, seeing a masculine energy, that's why I said there could be a moment when this is occurring that feels very energetically, emotionally overwhelming. Because for a feminine to look towards masculine coming into divine union and saying, you don't have to do all this, like this is too much, and masculine looking and saying, what are you talking about? Like, that's that moment of feminine having that moment that feels like a point of personal liberation, coming into the divine union frequency, and then feeling the energetic overwhelm of anyone or anything in the past that made them feel like what they were receiving easily from someone was too much, was a bridge too far. Because that's that moment that you suddenly realize, if something always felt like it was a bridge too far for someone else, it was because you guys were on very different bridges. Masculine and feminine right now in separation. This is why the feminine energy is utilizing such a high degree of energetic discernment in relationality to the new energetic connections that they may be making with masculine at this time, because this is feminine energy that feels like they just recently are coming back into themselves. This is feminine energy that's just starting to feel comfortable again in their own skin. This is feminine energy that's just starting to feel stable again in a moment that had to deal with a lot of energetic grief. They're still navigating a lot of the energetic grief here. So this is the feminine energy that's almost saying, I don't have the energetic bandwidth. I see the feminine energy. I can't do that again. I'm out of spoons. This is literally the feminine energy, it's not even the feminine energy saying, I don't desire to. This is feminine energy saying, I energetically and I spiritually cannot go through that again. This is feminine energy taking care of themselves because their own sense of energetic health has reached a point that they say, I'm like, I cannot, like, this is no longer a moment where I can pour something in and not get back. This is the feminine energy saying, that's done. I can't. This isn't even a feminine energy saying I won't. This is feminine energy going, I can't. I've reached my limit on what I can energetically give without energetically receiving. So even now, this is the feminine energy. That sense of discernment is the feminine almost doing that moment that feels almost like that act of emotional or spiritual protection. Because this is the feminine energy saying, I'm going to become my authentic self right now, because I really don't have the bandwidth to navigate another energetic lesson of that capacity. Masculine, seeing a feminine energy almost saying this, like that's that moment that, again, it feels like that energy of a feminine that you're seeing both sides of the feminine. You're seeing the feminine that's being very open and vulnerable, but also they're being open and vulnerable about the energetic boundaries they're holding up. And even now we see that for a lot of the masculine energy in that modality, that could feel very energetically difficult to see and experience, because this could be a moment that, again, you're leading forth with a space or place of authenticity. You're in a healing gesture, but now you're almost feeling like you have to contend with all of the harms of the past that someone put on another energy that's also in that healing moment. And it feels like, again, that's that moment that you have to kind of work through energetically, because that's that moment that you realize that, like, that trust that you want to build with someone, it almost feels like it's going to have to be even more careful, because the energy themselves is already in such a heightened state of feeling that sense of not being able to energetically connect with someone that isn't focused on what it is that they want to create with the feminine. So this is that moment that we see that for a lot of the masculine energy, it could feel very energetically overwhelming, because some of this may feel like it is like it's valid. It's like, it's that moment that like feels like an energetic pang because it's reminding you about why you're on this healing journey in the first place. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Hangman in its reversal in combination with our Death card. Big cards here today. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Seven of Wands in its reversal. This is the feminine in energy in separation. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what's most aligned to. This is the feminine energy. I need to stress this. This is feminine energy in separation. That's like, I have to put it like, I'll put it this way. Sometimes it takes a lot of strength to be peaceful. It takes a lot of strength just to be able to energetically let go. And so what we almost see here is this is feminine energy that's almost amplifying to a certain extent towards new masculine energy or new energetic connections and saying, I can't energetically go through that again. That process that I had to go through, that experience that I had to go through in the past, having to navigate that, this is almost a feminine energy that's saying like, if I'm seeing any of that energetic, if they're seeing any of that energetic confusion, if you will, this is almost the feminine energy saying, it's better if I'm getting here, like it's better if things just stop before they start. Because feminine energy said, it doesn't, feels like, again, they're like, I don't want to feel like I have to fight for the things that I know that I need from the connection. This is the feminine energy literally saying like, I'm not going to fight for anything if the bar is on the floor. Because this is feminine energy that's like just putting the bar like back on, like putting the bar back on and being like, the bar is still very low. And that's like the feminine energy saying like, that's like, I'm not going through this. Like, this is the feminine energy saying, you need to come towards me with intentionality. You need to, this almost feminine energy saying, you need to have the empathy of making my life energetically easier. Because this is feminine energy almost anticipating and saying relationships are always in that modality where they always are hard. So if this is the feminine energy that's already seeing that difficulty or that conflict starting to arise at the beginning of a new partnership, this is feminine energy that's almost immediately like walking away from it in a way immediately, because saying if something is hard now, this is the feminine energy basically saying if something is hard now, it's not going to get easier later. If something is hard now, it will get even harder later, because when you advance in a relationship, things get more complicated. So if there's difficulty now, that difficulty is not going to disappear. This is just an echo of what is going to become the amplification point going forward. This is why the feminine energy is looking right now with such a high level or degree of discernment in anything that may start to feel like an energetically difficult space with an energy, because this is feminine energy that has learned the lesson that small problems don't disappear when you enter partnership. Those small problems amplify. Those small problems become the elephant in the room. This is the feminine energy saying, if I spot it and it can't be resolved now, then we're just going to call this. This is feminine going, I'm just going to energetically call it and just have peace with knowing that I made the right choice. Masculine, you may be seeing this on the part of a feminine energy. You may be seeing that sense of the feminine that's basically saying, and this is not even a feminine energy that's trying to fight with the masculine over it. This isn't feminine energy demanding that the masculine change. This is masculine potentially feeling that sense of a feminine that just kind of pulls away, steps back, and like lays that energetic boundary, if you will, because that's the moment the masculine is almost seeing and observing right now, potentially even trying to get some clarification point. And if that's occurring, this is probably energetically why masculine, because if this is occurring, this is feminine energy that is looking for that intentionality of purpose. And if there's anything that's happening around you that feels like that uncertainty, feels like that energetic confusion, this is feminine energy saying, I'm not going to take that energetic risk. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union, this is the energy of the energy that, what I mean, there's no risk, because this is energy that's making every intentional effort to show someone that this is a transformation that feels like it's energetically welcome. This is that energy of someone feeling like, this is this is literally the type of energy, someone being like, you don't have to. And the other energy being like, I want to. Are you kidding me? I want to. right? Because that is that moment that, again, it's that point of saying the transformation is one that is welcome because it makes everything so much energetically easier. This is almost saying, like, again, this is trying to say, like, we just need to, like, move towards this because it's inevitable, because it just makes, like, everything else that's in the way right now is in the way. It's like everything else outside of the partnership is the obstruction that needs to be corrected for, right? This is the difference between saying, oh, well, maybe if we move in together, things will get better. Maybe if we get married, things will get... No. This is that moment of saying, everything's so perfect, I guess we should just move in together. Everything's so perfect, I guess like, that's the difference. Do you see the difference there? That's the difference, right? And so for a lot of the energy, experiencing that sense of being like everything else feels like it's not necessary, but we're just moving through those things to make things even easier, to facilitate that easement point. That's the recognition point and understanding that, like, a transformational moment doesn't change the relationship. You have the transformational moments to just make the good perpetuate more in a good situation. Masculine and feminine energy coming into, it's in the heart of the divine union. This is that modality that we see, because you're going through like a lot of transformational processes in the heart of the divine union frequency right now. This is that energy that feels like the amplification of personal transformation. And what is important when we go through those processes of personal transformation? Finding our own energetic comfort level. Finding what feels like it is sustainable versus what feels like it is overly exhaustive. And we see even now for a lot of that energy, finding that point is really important. And it's amplified in, again, the feeling of what brings a sense of excitement versus what brings a sense of anxiety. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Death card in combination with our Temperance card. May I please have one card to clarify, please? Clarification coming through right now with our Knight of Cups. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency. This is the energetic lesson that's potentially coming through right now for the energy that's going through this type of work. For feminine, it is finding that comfort zone in pushing your own energetic boundaries, not coming into a space of stagnation, but finding that sweet spot between what makes you feel comfortable and vulnerable, but also like allows you to push your own envelope. For masculine, it's the ability of providing enough of that energetic encouragement wherein, and this is what's so difficult for a lot of the masculine energy in this modality, and this is why we see that even now the ability to feel a lot of things is also that moment of navigating it in a way that feels like it's positive and productive. This is the difference between wanting to encourage and amplify someone that you like that directionality, but not wanting to put the energetic pressure on someone to feel like they have to maintain that frequency vibration in order to continue to perpetuate that energetic connection, right? That's that moment that we feel that wants to say to someone, I love that you're doing these things, but my care for you doesn't exist within them, right? So even now we see that these are different pathworks that are happening right now in that those are hard nuanced lessons for the energy and the divine union. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union. This is that modality. This is a transformational moment of feminine being like, you know, again, what are we seeing with the feminine? What's the feminine doing that's coming into divine union? I told you, they're slowing down. Feminine being like, you don't need to do all these things. Masculine being like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Like, this is the masculine being like, do you understand? This is literally the masculine saying to the feminine, do you understand? I'm not doing these things for you. I'm doing them for me. Like, this is literally masculine in the divine union saying, I am gladly opening the doors to this, like, you know, my energetic temple, because I'm doing this because it is like a celebration moment. Like, this is the masculine, like, welcoming that transformational process, if you will. And this for a feminine, to see a feminine move, like a masculine moving in this way, again, this is that perceptual shift that may be occurring in terms of a lot of the experiences in the past. Masculine and feminine coming, and then again, like that moment of masculine saying, who made you feel like this was too much? Who made you feel like this was too much, right? That pathwork of transformation. Masculine and feminine energy coming into, like, in separation. This is why the feminine energy right now is having potentially what could be articulated as some difficult conversations with some of the masculine energy in separation. Because what did I say is potentially energetically happening here? If this is masculine energy that's leading forth with honesty towards feminine, but there's still confusion in that honesty, there's still uncertainty about what the masculine wants, this is feminine energy basically saying to masculine, I thank you for your honesty. You're having an intimate conversation because of that. We're building an intimate connection because of that. But honesty is only one half of the energetic equation. That honesty must be met with intentionality. Be honest, and what do you truly desire? Because this is the feminine energy saying, again, I need you to prioritize the connection that you're trying to energetically build with me. If you're not moving in that space, or I need to at least understand what the shape of what you aspire and desire is going forward, so that I can recognize and articulate and identify whether we are in energetic alignment. So even now, this feels like this is almost, again, a lot of the feminine energy feeling like they're having something that feels a bit like an educational conversation with masculine at a time that feminine energy is almost saying, like, I'm not getting it. I don't want to get into the space or place of giving someone an energetic lesson. This is the feminine energy almost saying, like, again, I'm giving you like some assistance here, but this is feminine energy almost saying, like, again, I need you to be able to have this for yourself, because I can't be in that modality where I feel like I'm always trying to, like, this is almost that energy of the feminine saying, like, I want to help you, but at the same time, I cannot guide you. You must have that. And this is almost the energies of the feminine saying, when you have it, you know where to energetically find me. Because a lot of this feminine energy is going, like, they're already seeing it enough that they're already energetically stepping back from some of the energetic new connections that they're building with masculine. Masculine, you may be seeing this right now. And what's difficult about this is, again, for masculine energy, coming into that state or space of being, I got to say, energetically curious is not enough to build a connection with feminine right now. Feminine, I have to say, are up to their ears with energy that is energetically curious. They want energy that is intentional. They want energy that knows what it is that they want to create, that isn't in that modality of just kind of seeing what's energetically out there. This is the energy of feminine being like, are you on a path, or are you just going for like a casual walk? Are you just meandering about, or are you actually moving in terms of a destination? So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy in that modality, that's the moment that feels like that sense of the feminine. If the feminine's pushing back away from you a little bit at a moment and you're feeling that anxiety point because you're trying to be authentic or open with them, this is potentially why. Because the authenticity is only half the equation. You also need to have your own inherent sense of direction. You need to be able to articulate to the feminine what it is that you aspire and desire to build. Because if you come towards the feminine in separation right now and you basically say, I'm just meandering, I don't really know what I'm doing, I don't really know where I'm going. Like, this is the feminine energy being like, you seem cool. You seem cool. Go grab a drink sometime. I gotta go that way. Right? Because that's the feminine energy that, again, does not want to become energetically connected to someone who doesn't have that intentionality of purpose. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Magician card in its reversal in combination with our Ace of Cups in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with, and that's why we see even now, this is feminine energy that's utilizing that power of discernment and separation right now. And that's that moment that we see to a certain extent. And that's not feminine energy doing that in any way to try to create some kind of game with the masculine. This is feminine energy that's like, I'm going to step away from anyone that feels like, again, and this is the sense, this is what the feminine energy is identifying right now in the masculine energy. They're recognizing that someone could be coming forward from a place of authenticity, but at the same time, not energetically know what they want, right? Having that moment, that's the feminine energy saying, I appreciate and recognize where you are energetically, but I can't create that for you. You need to find that within yourself. You need to already have that, right? It's not enough just to lead forward with authenticity. You also need to have that intentionality. So we see, right, and that's a feminine saying, I'm not saying that because I don't, I hold that against you. That's a feminine saying, I can't do that. That's feminine going, I can't do it. I don't have the energetic capacity to navigate that journey right now. Masculine energy in separation right now, that's that modality you may be experiencing and understanding. If you're trying to come towards feminine right now, but you're being very authentic, you can notice right now that that feminine energy is very, very discerning in relationality to asking what it is that you energetically want. This is an unavoidable question, but also it's a question that if you're on the healing journey, you should have the answer to, right? The problem or the hurdle with a lot of the masculine energy in this modality is it does take, I told you, a lot of energetic resilience to be able to tell someone what it is that you energetically hope for going forward. Right? That's a big milestone. That's a big hurdle. And we see even now a lot of the masculine energy in separation going through that internal process to try to recognize and identify what that is, to be able to allow for that to be like that moment of personal achievement. I told you right now, a lot of this masculine energy in separation feels like they're going through a little bit of this like energetic confusing time, because having a breakthrough almost like, opens up a lot of different pathways. So what needs to happen right now is having that sense of purpose, moving with an intentional direction is very important, because that's the difference in terms of building shallow relationships with energy that feels like you only have one energetic foot in the door versus someone truly opening up to you because they see the fact that you are moving towards them with intensity, conviction, and intention. Masculine and feminine energy that are coming into divine union, they're coming into divine union because the feminine is seeing the masculine energy coming towards them with intentionality, conviction, intention. Like intensity, conviction, intention. That's what the feminine energy is seeing right now. That is the feminine energy of feeling immediately that sense that that's a masculine energy that doesn't even need to speak about how they feel about the feminine, because it's self-evident. When someone is moving towards you with intensity, conviction, intention, they don't need to tell you that that's the case. You can see it. You can energetically feel it. It's like, and this is the feminine energy saying like, I know that, masculine. This is that moment. If you're moving towards a feminine in this way, it's because you made the path. You made the choice to move towards a feminine with intensity, conviction, intention. And that doesn't mean that you're pushing past a feminine's own boundaries. That's that moment that, again, that is that energetic softening point wherein you build that relationship with the feminine. We see here the masculine built it with the feminine, built that safe space, and then was able to affirm to the feminine and say, I'm going to continue to deliver at this level every day. This is not me showing off to you. This is who I am. This is my honest self. This isn't going to get dialed back. This is who I am. Because that is that moment of saying, I wasn't arriving to you in a sense of falsehood. I was arriving to you with the intensity, intention, and commitment of my present, persistent, perpetual self. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency. This is the energy that always moves towards each other with intentionality, commitment, intensity. The problem with when you move forward with intentionality, commitment, intensity is making sure that that is something that is also sustaining. That is also something that is balanced. That is something that brings a sense of excitement as opposed to anxiety, right? That's the difference between feeling like you're operating in the mode that is comfortable for you versus the feeling of trying to keep up energetic appearances. So we see even now, a lot of that energy is working through that process of finding that energetic midpoint for themselves to understand what is that comfort level in terms of challenging oneself forward without feeling overly energetically exhausted. Continuing. And that in itself is ideal, because that creates the ideal environment through which, again, you're starting to feel the harmony of the manifestation goal that you have in play. Continuing to get clarification between our Ace of Cups and its reversal in combination with our Seven of Wands and its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Six of Swords. Six of Swords in its upright. This is difficult, right? Because one of the things that we're energetically recognizing right now, specifically for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency, is that frustration or that anxiety in relationality to everything that you're trying to do. Like a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency is just feeling the sense of wanting to do as much as they can with like not wanting to waste any of their energetic effort right now, right? So even now, navigating that feeling, what happens when you're trying to do everything? You always feel to a certain extent, I'm sorry, I hate to break it to you, you can't do everything, right? That's okay. Navigating that feeling right now is what we energetically see a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency is working through, because that is that moment of, again, trying to make sure, trying to build forth in a way. But I also have to say, this is a gift. If you're moving in this way, I have to stress, if you're moving in this way and you feel like you're dropping opportunities, I'm going to say this, that's the best worst problem you can have. Do you realize that? Like, I want you to just understand that. I want you to give yourself a little bit of grace if you're going through that modality, because that is that moment of, again, feeling like you're trying to carry everything, right? You're like going up the stairs carrying everything, and you're like dropping cans on the way, right? Like that is a moment, that is the energetic feeling of moving in that abundance mindset, right? Because you're feeling that frustration in not being able to energetically do more. So we see even now that a lot of the energy navigating through that is finding what I told you is that point of balance in terms of feeling the expression of doing everything that you can do, but also giving yourself a little bit of grace and saying, like, when you do all you can do is everything that you can do, right? It's like, that's all you can do. And that's okay. And even now we see that ability to kind of help each other regulate, to give that sense of either, again, and this even now, advice when you see something that someone could be doing a little bit better, making that easement point, but also giving someone that sense of encouragement, even when they feel those points of personal frustration. That is that moment that we're energetically seeing to a certain extent, that like feels like that point of like helping someone, again, navigate out of anxiety into excitement, right? That's the name of the game right now. Like that is what that's the ability to do so. So even now we see that recognition point may be a moment, and this is why we see a lot of the energy is having this, because this changes on a case by case basis, which is like, are you letting yourself get stressed out and overwhelmed by a lot of that moment? Or are you feeling that sense of joy? You know, like that is that moment that is the amplification point in saying, like, again, when you're like lifting a weight, you know, it's hard, but are you asking for more weight because like you're excited and you feel like you can actually lift it? Or are you feeling like you have to, right? Like that is very important and integral right now for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency. Masculine and feminine energy coming into the divine union frequency. This is that expansion point and feeling the full weight of what it may have energetically taken to find the divine union frequency. This is not uncommon that when you move into that modality, you suddenly feel this expansiveness of grief. That's the heart opening, right? If there's a moment of feminine seeing masculine that's like throwing open their doors to the feminine to a certain extent, what is it going to remind you of? It's going to remind you of all those times you were banging on that door and someone wouldn't open it. If this is masculine that's going through that process of recognizing and opening themselves up to the feminine with intensity, commitment, conviction, and intentionality, this is that moment that reminds you of all those spaces where you may have accidentally or inadvertently self-sabotaged because you weren't ready to navigate the intensity of the expression of the emotion that occurs when you do so. So for both of these energies right now, when I say it's bittersweet, it's bittersweet. That's what a heart opening is. It's not that everything feels happy. It's like you feel everything much more intensely. So even now we see that in itself may be a little bit of that intensity that is hard to navigate, particularly during this eclipse cycle, because it's really intensifying all the lessons that took on the way to be able to find yourself here. Hold that with a base of grace. Remember that person was the one that carried you all the way here. You got to give them a high five. You got to say, I know you did the best that you could. Masculine and feminine that are in separation. This is why the feminine energy right now, if there's masculine coming towards feminine, even if they're new connections, this is potentially feminine energy already kind of walking away from something. And almost saying to the masculine and saying it's not, and that's the feminine energy, almost saying to the masculine, if seeing a masculine that's being honest but in a point of confusion, this is the feminine energy almost saying to the masculine, you're not doing anything wrong. You're not doing anything wrong, but we're not a good energetic match. Because this is the feminine energy that's already seeing if there's that confusion point. This isn't the feminine energy that wants to grab the masculine and say, tell me what you want. This is the feminine energy that knows you can't ask someone what they want. They need to be able to tell you. And if the masculine's already in a place where they can't tell the feminine what they want, then that's the feminine energy. It feels like someone's only like, they're not yet at that moment where it's like the honesty is there, but the honesty also needs the combination of the intentionality. And this is almost the feminine energy saying, if that day comes, you know where to find me. But this is feminine energy already putting this application into practice of saying, I'm seeing it here. I'm seeing the possibility to recontinue a cycle. I'm not going to do that. Masculine, you may be seeing this right now in the energy of a feminine that you may have been authentic with and opened up with. But if you express confusion, this is feminine energy that's already kind of like stepping back from you in a very loving way and basically saying like, no, nothing energetically against where you are, but we are in different places, because this is feminine energy that knows what they want to manifest. And they're waiting. Like one of the things that they're hoping for is a masculine that has that intentionality of purpose that is required to be able to build forth with someone. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Seven of Wands and its reversal in combination with our Knight of Cups. One card to clarify, please. Bear with me one moment. Clarification coming through right now with Nine of Pentacles in its reversal, because what we're effectively seeing right now, masculine and feminine energy in the divine, in separation. This is the feminine energy, again, who's just coming into that state or space of being able to find that level or degree of comfort for themselves. Right? And this is the feminine energy that's almost saying to the masculine, I recognize that you can come towards me with a state of authenticity, that you can be energetically open about how you feel. But that's almost the feminine energy saying, I recognize that sometimes bad roads are paved with good intentions. The ability to recognize that their road will not be paved badly is by knowing what that road will be. So this is again that moment of the feminine saying, your emotions, your feelings towards me, that's valuable. But without that intentionality of purpose, they feel like they may kind of just create conflict instead of purpose, right? Our purpose exists when we take our emotional energy and we put it into practical pathwork application. So we see even now a lot of the feminine energy is trying to say to the masculine, how you feel is important. How you feel is integral. But you can't build with emotions. You have to have a plan. You have to have that intentionality of purpose. So this is the feminine energy almost saying to a certain extent, the openness, thank you, but also I can't, it's when you know what you want, like, come back is what it's almost like what the feminine's saying, because the feminine's saying, I can't open things, like this is feminine being like, I'm just getting back into a place where I feel comfortable. Right? And that's that moment. If someone doesn't have that intentionality of purpose, the energetic connection may just create that confusing, disarming space that may just knock the feminine over again energetically. And this is why we see even now for a lot of the masculine energy recognizing this is that moment that may be feeling like a lot of internal journeying is necessary, because this is that moment of recognizing and identifying that, the feminine energy will energetically express to you, but they're not going to be as forthright in terms of what it is that they aspire and desire until you yourself are able to articulate what it is that you want as well. So we see even now that a lot of that energy in separation, this could feel it could feel a little energetically disappointing to a certain extent, is what we're seeing. Some energy feeling a little bit of that energetic frustration, if you will, but also, again, amplifying and feeling like you're doing something that you know is energetically best. masculine and feminine energy coming into the divine union frequency. This modality that we're seeing right now is energetically that point of recognizing and identifying at the time that you receive something, every moment prior that you didn't receive it. So even now, for feminine energy to suddenly feel like masculine's giving you something so easily and so willingly without even batting an eyelash, it could feel like very like shocking energetically, because it's that moment that like immediately echoes back to any circumstance or situation wherein someone did not do so. Masculine in that modality too, that's that moment. If you're offering it to feminine and you're seeing them going through this like energetic conflict and receiving it, this is a moment that feels like some kind of healing of pathwork for you as well. Because this is almost that moment where you're building that empathetic with connection to feminine, being like, who made you feel like this was asking for too much? Who did this? Where are they? Like, this is that moment of masculine, feeling that like amplification of like the energetic empathy and recognizing a feminine that is so guarded at the moment of the masculine opening up in this capacity, that is the amplification of a feminine that's like, moving into that place of like energetic surprise, if you will, right? So we see even now like that is like that expression of that's like almost again amplifying a deepening of the energetic connection to a masculine with a feminine, because that's that moment of masculine being like, it's feeling that additional frustration in the articulation of seeing something under the surface around the feminine that you may not necessarily even have grasped was there. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. This energy right now is that moment that feels like someone wanting to put some care and consideration towards someone, but also trying to navigate and say to someone, listen, I can give you energetic support, all I can, but you must be in that space or place that you are energetically good. We can't make each other energetically good. We have to find that in each other. So we see even now that there could be a lot of that discussion that's happening right now in the divine union frequency about how to navigate what could feel like a lot of that energetic tension, if you will, that we're experiencing, particularly even more right now during this eclipse cycle. Because that's that moment that feels like it is the point of looking at circumstances and situations and saying, is this something that is creating anxiety around you, or is this something that is amplifying excitement? Because each of those situations requires different remedies, right? If you're going through circumstances or situations where there's a lot happening and you're feeling anxious, then that's that moment that requires some level or degree of energetic care, right? Like that's that moment that someone may need to like seek forward to find that energetic care in some way, right? So that's like one type of energetic healing. Whereas if someone is going through a lot of intensity right now and it's feeling like that sense of like amplification of excitement, like that ability is like something that someone's like, no, I've got this. And they mean that they've got that because they've got it. They enjoy to be in that space of navigating something like that. That is the energy that almost requires that level or degree of energetic encouragement, right? So even now we see that ability of fine tuning, looking towards someone and saying like, are you doing this? Does this bring you joy? Is this something that feels like it is exciting to you? Or is this something that is amplifying your anxiety? That's a lot of this hard work that we see that is happening right now for a lot of the energy in the divine union, because it almost facilitates, it helps the energy of the counterpart to recognize what level or degree of energetic care is needed in those moments that sometimes can feel like that impossibility factor of like what's under the surface within an individual or person. Continuing to get clarity on these cards right now between our Ace of Swords in combination with our Six of Swords. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. This is what we see with our lovers and its reversal, because that's that moment. This is one of those tricky things, and this is why we see even now for a lot of energy in the divine union. It may feel like a lot of like fastidious checking on one another, because this is that modality of recognizing that we can be in the same place and be having very different experiences, right? Two people can be in the same room and one could be having a delightful time, one could be having a terrible time, right? It all depends on how you are energetically carrying something and whether the good outweighs the bad. So we see even now that a lot of that fine tuning right now is a lot of the communication points that are happening for the energy in the divine union to almost get each other's feedback in the situations that you're currently experiencing to ascertain whether you're on the energetic same page in relationality to what you are energetically experiencing and how to basically go forward from that point. Masculine and feminine energy coming into the divine union frequency. This feels like a shock to the system energetically for a lot of the energy experiencing this for the first time, because if this is a moment that you're having a breakthrough, it's that moment that suddenly amplifies a lesson that you're learning at the time of receiving something, because that moment of receiving something suddenly reminds you of all those moments that you didn't energetically receive it. So even now, this could be that moment that feels like that heart expansion point for a lot of the energy coming into divine union, because it's like that weight of the grief of all the energetic connections that either helped you learn this lesson or did not give you this type of energy. So, masculine and feminine energy in separation. This is the energy of feminine coming into that heightened power of discernment. What's that lesson? That's a feminine saying, if we're not in alignment, I can't. We can't move forward in this way. This is the feminine energy saying, I need, like almost dropping things like faster, like going into that mentality of just being like, oh, no. And even now we see that is so heightened. This could even result in feminine, like seeing a pink flag and being like, that's close to red. That's close to, that's close to red. So even now, this could be a moment that feels like a little bit of anxiety for masculine, seeing the feminine in that sense of heightened sensitivity, because this is almost the masculine energy that is feeling that point of wanting to make sure that they're building forth in a way with the feminine feeling comfortable and safe. And even now we see that for a lot of the masculine experiencing that, it does feel like, it feels like a moment of energetic confusion, because it is requiring, and again, it's requiring a lot of masculine in separation to identify what it is that they aspire for in partnership, as opposed to moving forward with a sense of curiosity to see what they discover. Like one is embraced, that sense of knowing what one wants, whereas coming into space and saying like, I just want to see what's out there. Like that's the energy of feminine just being like, no, that's a moment of the feminine being like, that's not moving with intentionality. Even if you're being authentic about it, the intentionality is key. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between the Six of Swords in combination with our Nine of Pentacles in its reversal. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now. But this is also, I have to stress, even in separation right now, there's something that's incredibly energetically healing here. Because even if these are moments right now where feminine is already moving away from some energy because they feel like there's some kind of confusion in relationality to what they aspire for in partnership, this is feminine energy. It almost feels like they're doing this out of an act of love. Because this is the feminine energy almost looking towards someone and saying, like, again, what happens when we lead forth with honesty? This is feminine energy leading forth with honesty to masculine, saying, listen, I appreciate where you are. We're just potentially in different energetic places, and that's okay too. You seem lovely. You like, this is almost the energy of feminine moving. And I have to say, like, this is the energy of feminine moving someone into that space or place of saying, like, we can have some kind of connection point here, but it can't necessarily be intimate, because if you don't know what it is that you want, we can't build forth in that way, right? That's the feminine energy moving like into that space of being like, your authenticity is appreciated, your intentionality is seems like you're not sure. And that's a feminine energy that almost says like, you know, that's that point. There's almost a lot of the feminine energy experiencing something and looking at someone saying, you know, we can be on that path work. We can continue forward in a way. Like that's the energy saying like, we can continue to support each other. But if you don't have that intentionality, then that's that moment that creates that energetic confusion of the feminine holding through those boundaries. So even now we see that there's a lot of energetic compassion that is potentially occurring around circumstances and situations right now, specifically because even in that moment, feminine energy is pulling away from something, but also putting a lot of energetic compassion in those zones. That's that movement of saying to someone, I'm doing this not because I care. I'm doing this because I'm trying to protect my own person, right? Masculine energy that is in separation right now, this could be that modality that you're potentially realizing and recognizing that if you go towards feminine and you're being authentic and open, but you're not being intentional as it relates to what you aspire and desire or what you want to build with, then the feminine energy, like it is that moment that you may be feeling even now. You're like, this is that, I have to stress this. There's a lot of masculine energy being like, oh, well, why are we just becoming friends? This could be one of the reasons, right? This could be one of the reasons, because this is that moment that we see is the articulation of building an open energetic connection with someone from a place of honesty. But even now, that sense of recognizing that like one can't seek that intentionality from another, one needs to find it within one's own self. So we could see here that there's a lot of the masculine energy that may be recognizing and understanding why some of the energetic connections around you, even if you're moving forward in this way, and being like, oh, like if that's that moment that you were leading forth with authenticity, but not intentionality, and then you built a connection that wasn't necessarily romantic, this is potentially why. Because when you create that confusing space of being authentic, but you don't put when you don't put intentionality on it, like the feminine steps away energetically because they don't want to get their heart hurt, and they put you in that placement of having that compassionate space. So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy going through this process, this is that moment that you may be feeling like you're building a lot of energetic relationships. And even now we could almost see that sense of the masculine feeling a point of confusion, being like, why are these relationships all becoming something that doesn't feel romantic? Well, if you're not leading forth with intentionality, if you're just leading forth with openness, that's why. You build towards energy having to do the combination of both authenticity with intentionality of purpose. You need to put them together. And for a lot, I have to stress this, for some of the masculine energy, a lot of this path work is recognizing that there may be some places in your life. I have to stress this if this is happening with masculine. Are you recognizing that there may be some places in your life that you give authenticity? And that there are some places in your life that you give intentionality? And maybe the two places don't meet? If that's something that is occurring, masculine, that is a part of a lesson that you can take forward with you, because that is something that you can energetically unpack. Why can't those two meet? Continuing to get clarification on these right now, the intentionality or the energy of the masculine and feminine, they're moving in divine union. This is the masculine energy having met that and provided that towards the feminine energy. That authenticity and that intentionality. Building that vulnerable place and then putting the intentionality towards it. This is the feminine energy saying, again, if it's easy, this is the feminine saying, this person offers it to me gladly because I know how much work it took for them to be able to do that. Masculine doing so, this is that moment of recognizing how much you had to work on your own self to be able to build a type of relationship with feminine wherein you're not compartmentalizing the energy in your life and saying, well, these people I'm honest with, this person I have a relationship with. The ability to take those two and blend them and say, this is the person I have a relationship with. They know all sides of me. There is no stone that isn't unturned. And the more they see, the more that they desire. That ability of doing that and building forth with that, that is a hard work. But that path work is, again, building within the self to do so is what allows for these connections to take root. So we see even now that that moment feels like a moment of energetic healing. And it's not the expression of finding the right person. It's finding yourself and then being able to build with the person that you make that intentional choice with because you find them on the same journey. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union right now. This energy that we're seeing here, this is that moment that feels like a lot of guidance because that level or degree of compassion is creating a field of almost energetic caution, if you will. We saw the energy in the divine union is trying to push so hard right now. It's taking a little bit of that energetic check-in and grabbing someone and saying, are you good? But not meaning are you good like something's wrong, but I'm going, are you good? Like, is this a place and space that you're energetically excited and happy about? Or is this movement something that is showing or indicating a struggle, right? Because that is the difference between moving forward from a state of excitement versus anxiety. And that's coming from that compassionate center, if you will. Final card for today's spread. This is what we're talking about here. Got the Lovers in its reversal in combination with our Six of Cups. One card to clarify, please. clarification coming through right now with our Six of Pentacles in its reversal, because one of the things that we're identifying right now, particularly for the energy in the heart of the divine union, is the recognition point in terms of what you can't energetically give to, right? This is why we see even now a lot of the energy is assessing what is something that can be changed externally versus what can be addressed internally. Because that moment or modality of seeing and experiencing something and either feeling like you're moving towards something and it feels like it's exciting versus moving towards something and it feels like it's creating anxiety, that's something that we can't necessarily adjust or alter within each other. Like, that's not something, there's a moment there that we can do a lot of that internal work to adjust, but some of that is key or core within us. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy right now, that ability to assess something in that way, having that hard conversation, is almost like that energetic act of love, if you will, because that's that moment of basically saying to someone, are we both experiencing the same thing? Are we both feeling the same thing? Or is this a moment that we're feeling something that like one person is feeling with excitement, the other person's feeling with anxiety? Because that is not a movement in the same direction. That is potentially two energies moving in a direction that looks similar, but having very different experiences along the way. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. Your ability to feel that difference, in present moment, it's amplifying all the connection points that you didn't have that with, which were either, again, those points of misalignment where one person was feeling excitement, the other person was feeling profound anxiety, or that moment of potentially recognizing and identifying spaces or places where you weren't giving the person you were in the relationship with the intimacy that you needed to build with. Or not receiving it willingly from that person, individual. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is why we see this is that energetic tough love that's coming through, because this is that moment, especially for some of the masculine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. That is the amplification point. If there's suddenly a moment that you recognize, if there's a moment right now, masculine, that you're realizing that you're open and honest with friends, but not with energetic partners. If that's that moment of saying, well, I give authenticity to this group, but I give intentionality to that one. Like that ability to blend these two zones, that is that moment that may show for a lot of the energy of masculine, like where a lot of that work needs to occur right now. Because if that's that moment where it feels like the oil and the vinegar between like your ability to like lead forward with authenticity to one person and then intentionality to another, you need to blend the two. Because that is the moment that you actually lead forth from a state of deep energetic commitment. Because that's that moment that, again, you put your heart on your sleeve, but also it's your heart, it's your sleeve. Like it is what you truly aspire and desire for. And that's what allows for the energy of divine union. So for a lot of the masculine energy, of recognizing and assessing that you may have a hard time blending those two zones, that is almost that moment that feels like a movement towards deeper understanding of the self, because it's helping you better recognize what you need to energetically work on going forward. Feminine energy, this is that moment that you may be even experiencing right now where someone is almost, again, they've shown half of the work that they may be energetically doing. They're coming towards you from a state of honesty, but without that intentionality, it almost is immediately creating what could be best described as energetic confusion with the feminine, which could be a lot of the feminine energy saying, you don't seem like you know what you want. It's better if we just become friends, because that is the feminine energy receiving the authenticity without the intentionality and feeling that anxiety and saying it's safer if we move this into that zone, because that's the feminine energy saying you're not providing that key thing I need to be able to facilitate and move into divine union with someone. Bottom of the deck on this reading, Four of Pentacles. This is why we see this is a lot of energetic withholding right now. The problem is this energetic withholding is something that is intentional. Masculine and feminine energy, even now, there's something about holding back to a certain extent, even in the divine union, because this is that moment that, again, it feels like that sense or that center of not wanting to, trying to build a sense of understanding on where someone is without feeling like you are energetically energetically moving them in a certain direction, right? That's like that active listener moment in trying to like just absorb where someone is without feeling like you want to put your hands on it. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. This is that moment that may feel like that preciousness that's arriving in terms of what you're creating with another, and really doing everything you can to try to like lock it in right now in the tangible, because what you're feeling doesn't have those tangibles to it yet, right? This is that moment that like the energetic commitment's there, and now it's like you're just trying to bring it to ground in the tangible space, and that's like, that is the problem area. It's like you can't rush around soon enough to like make it practical, because what you're feeling is so energetically in alignment. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. This is why the feminine energy is holding back in articulating to masculine their manifestation goals. This is feminine energy saying you can't borrow my homework here. You can't borrow my homework here. You can't wait for me to tell you what I want and then say, I want that too. That's feminine energy recognizing and saying, it's not like you didn't have any goals before you met me, and suddenly you met me, and suddenly like you were like, I've just been waiting for you to show up to tell me what it is that I want. Right? This is feminine being like that. It doesn't work like that. Like, this is the feminine energy that's almost saying to us, like energetically to masculine, I'm willing to share with you my aspirations, but I need to see yours first. But that's why, because feminine has experienced situations where masculine's been like, yeah, I want that. That sounds awesome. But they didn't really want that, right? Masculine, you may be feeling that to a certain extent. The problem is this is that resistance point. This isn't a masculine energy that doesn't know what they want. Masculine, you recognize how emotionally vulnerable it is to be able to tell someone what it is that you truly aspire for. But you can't have it unless you ask for it. So even now we see that a lot of the masculine energy is trying to wrestle that point of being able to, again, energetically release enough to be able to articulate what you want in this world, to be able to manifest it. That is our daily collective read for today. I'd like to thank you guys so much for being here, to experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, gracestrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I'll never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. I'd also love to have you and invite you to share and join me over on my Substack, Tarot Church. We are beginning a new monthly educational program to help guide you through the cards. It is going to be a class that is good for both beginners and seasoned readers. I hope to see you there. Substack, Grace Strega. I hope you guys have an absolutely beautiful day. Please take care of yourselves. Please take care of each other. And we will do this again tomorrow.